Hey, welcome back to the channel. It's awesome that you're tuning in. In today's video, we are going to take a close look at the Gamebox Plus from our friends from China. It's an Android system with some Emulation on it, and the question remains, how did he configure it? First of all, they begin with a typo on the box. That is something of the key signature that they're always doing when it comes to these boxes. Kind of hilarious, to be honest, at this point. So this is actually an overview of the device itself, and yeah, when it comes to the this is actually what we're having. If you didn't understand, let me rephrase myself. The box comes with all kinds of connections. The on and off switch over here, then input for the power supply, then even having an AV out, an HDMI out, the RJ45 Ethernet and the SPIF out. Two USB ports at the side and of course the SD card, and let's see what kind of brand. Ooh, they're using kind of a weird brand called the Game System 128GB. Wouldn't be surprised if these things get corrupted automatically, because that is an overall problem with these things. And honestly, this is kind of interesting. So when you're looking at the picture, it says two USB 3.0, but you're actually going to get 2.0. Wow, that's absolutely one of those epic lies. Already removed the rubbery feet because I just want to do a quick teardown and show you what you're finding actually in the inside of these things. By removing the 4 rubbery feet and the 4 Parkers. With the pry tool you can just click it open, fairly easy. In the inside we're finding the old famous Android board that we have seen many times before. Yep, and many times I mean all the different ones I've reviewed. Consider subscribing consider subscribing, because there are so many of these things out there. And if you didn't see my previous video, you missed out a couple of cool things. Some of the boxes are pretty damn awful and some are pretty damn great. Okay, I think 2 screws that we can just remove. And we can lift out the main board. Always need to be very gentle. Oh, the one thing I do need to forget is the SD card. When I did it the first time, I would just rip it apart, because this is basically holding this main board back. And let's give you an overview. So this is some old school tech they're using in here. Absolutely. There is no way of removing it. They're being completely crazy with this hot glue situation. It's even rubberized now. No, I can get myself in prior to and get stuff messing with it, but wouldn't it be the first time I completely ripped out a chip of a mainboard. There is no construction manufacture date on this. There is nothing much to see. Well, it's kind of funny that the Wi-Fi antenna was just dangling around in the box itself. There is no active cooling for the huge metal piece on here. I must give them kudos that even added a metal piece. And they did it after, let's say, doing the upgrade. But specification wise, it's the same craziness. So let's get into the system also and let's see where we're having more with this. Another controller. And of course the power supply, HDMI cable, and the remote we're not going to be using because this thing is actually an Android box. But I just want to mainly focus on the game system itself and what can we actually play with this. You know what's kind of funny? That this thing actually says game 3D game stick and it's the Gamebox Plus, so the naming of these things makes no sense. Okay, and we do have connection. Okay, so the overall menu, let's take a close look at it, because this thing is purely made for not tinkering. That's one thing to be sure. When you're actually looking at everything over here, there is nothing we can change out. The Gamebox Plus is just actually a device that has been used in different kind of form factor. That's also one of the reasons why it's called 3D Game Stick. The menu is pretty damn basic, and at that point there is nothing much you can tweak about it. At the right bottom corner we're finding overall, say, the controls of the device. That also includes the search and making a favorite game list. Pressing select and start will give you the option menu. The emulator video as ratio is only one of the things you can change out. That's it. There is nothing much you can just see here. Options more. Here we can change out the language if you want to, but also the control settings. That's interesting because we can still have the option to tweak the menu when it comes to, say, the controls if you want to implement new ones. And of course we can just quit the menu over here or go back into a reboot from Android, but also restart the system and shut it down. The menu itself is very basic. We can just press left and right, going to favorites, having PlayStation Portable, Dreamcast, Sega Naomi, Nintendo DS, N64, PlayStation, MAME, Capcom Classics. We have all kinds of different systems, and there's a lot of different stuff we can actually play on this. But I mainly want to focus, I will grab a couple of handhelds and 8-bit systems, 16-bit systems, but I wanted to see how far we can push it when it comes to certain devices. Particularly when it comes to, let's say Sega Dreamcast and Sega Naomi, because those devices are very demanding. And is it even worth picking a device up like this if it doesn't even run all of the devices? Because they do advertise with a lot of stuff, and most of the time it's going to be a lie. Pressing select to start will bring you in the special menu of the PlayStation Portable Emulator, the PPSSPP. But unfortunately, there is nothing we can do here. We can make a quick load, quick save. By the way, if you want to make a save, it will take up a lot of time to actually make a save. It's quite interesting that they configure it like this. But getting into the gameplay, you will see it stutters and we have a lot of glitches going on. And the reason why they're using an old emulator in combination with old hardware specs. Next up, Sega Dreamcast. The performance, it's okay. I mean, particularly you will hear and see some minor dips in the particular game I'm playing now. And getting into some, let's say, Dead or Alive 2, you will have less overall performance. But the performance is not bad for this old box itself. And I can just personally really enjoy this game. But with this emulator we're running on RetroR, and here we're having a slightly different option. We can restart the game, resume, we can even choose the same different save slot. But take consideration there's no screenshots where we don't know exactly where we've been. So, you know, it's kind of cool to have this, but in my opinion it doesn't give you extra value. But let's move on into the Sega Naomi, the arcade part of it. And you can hear sometimes that it stutters the same like the Sega Dreamcast, but I'm quite surprised with the overall performance of this box, where we don't have like super many glitches going on. And take note that this thing is running on some old school parts, so this is not like the latest AM Logic chipset they're using in this. There you can hear that it actually like stutters. There you can just hear that it struggles. Of course, the test of Atomus Wave with some Dolphin Blue. The performance of this game is not going to be great. I do hear a lot of stutters going on. It's still playable some way. We have seen some really bad overall performance. This is not like the way you actually want to play this. You can just hear how it basically sounds. Nintendo DS is one of those systems I personally don't like playing on this, but if you're having a huge screen, maybe you can really enjoy. So pressing the right joystick will activate your digital stylus, where we can just choose our save file. Left joystick will give you one single screen. So with the R2 we can switch between the modes. Having single screen, you can just do it like that. So the overall performance, it's going to be okay on these cheaper devices. I'm just going to be honest, I'm just really hating this, playing it like this. The overall performance is quite nice. But N64, that is always the major problem with these cheaper boxes. With Cruise in the World, we have absolutely some overall good performance, and that is the thing with N64. We have a hit and miss situation. The more demanding games, GoldenEye or maybe in Perfect Dark, they will not run perfectly on this, having a lot of issues. But there are some games like Cruise in the World that can really enjoy. Well, not many bugs or any glitches or any slowdown so far I can see. So one of the issues I'm always having with these PlayStation 1 games is that we don't have any background music going on. They remove this every single time because this saves out a lot of, let's say, space. But in the end, when you're just going to be enjoying some PlayStation 1, these systems are absolutely great. We've reached the point that we can actually use all of these cool games and have no problem with emulating them. But what I need to take consideration also is that this is going to be running on native resolution. Okay, so 64 speed is one of my favorite beat 'em up games to play on MAME. So when it comes to MAME, we can play like wonders, even thousands of different games are supported by a box like this. But the thing is, if you're getting into Killer Instinct and all the other ones, like the more demanding ones, Tekken is one of those ones too, they will not relate at all. We need to have more power, and these cheap game boxes are not capable of doing it. But how freaking cool is it nowadays that we have a freaking game box for not a lot of money that can just actually play all of these freaking things out of the box. I do have the idea that they are using a weird filter on these games, particularly when it comes to the two-dimensional games. Arcade also noticed it, but they implemented the right aspect ratio, so I'm very glad that they did this. So let's see how the D-pad of this thing works. I need to really get used to it. It's not my favorite D-pad whatsoever, but it seems to be working. I think it's maybe one of the better D-pads I've ever played. But I cannot do any supers. It's not a personal handicap, it's just this controller is freaking awful when it comes to that. Ah, finally. But the overall gameplay and also the emulation performance of Neo Geo seems to be working just fine. But if you're looking at the devices like in Game Boy Advance, they run just perfectly on a device or in Game Box Plus. And also they implemented the right aspect ratio, at least added some black bars so we don't have the scratched fluffy Crash Bandicoot. It's absolutely great out of the box and it seems to be working just fine. Also implemented this special filter over it so it looks kind of more polished. No weird things going on, no input audio delay whatsoever. But the main reason I don't focus too much on these devices, particularly when it comes to the 8-bit, 6-bit and handhelds, because it runs just perfectly, or most of the system runs perfectly on this. It's mainly the, let's say, the more demanding games. Think about the Dreamcast and all the other ones that have struggles sometimes. That's the reason why I mainly focus on, let's say, testing out some gameplay. But if you just want to enjoy some old school 8-bit, 16-bit, these cheaper game boxes with older hardware are just fine. No weird things going on. We do still have the filter we can change out, but the way how it looks, I think it's not that bad at all. But beside the system itself, it comes with places to knock off controllers, not the cheap kinds, but just more better quality with the normal analog stick with rubber compound on the joysticks. Got a nice click. The overall quality is not bad at all, and the same goes for the D-pad. Most of them are not great for overall fighting games. The A, B, X, Y buttons are the same quality. It's okay. These things are very difficult to open up. And in here we're finding the compartment for the two AAA batteries. And we have an on-off switch that I'm always forgetting to use, by the way. Always. The Gamebox Plus is absolutely an old school Android box that is slapped into a case and call it Plus. You know, they love to call these things Plus, Pro and all kinds of weird shenanigan names, because in the end they're just giving you old school hardware. Is it really bad? For the old school stuff it runs just great in my opinion, but when you're looking at, let's say, stuff like Dreamcast, yeah, there we're going to get the struggles. Depending what you want to play with this, the build quality is okay. I have seen better boxes when it comes to the controllers, but yeah, it's not bad at all. Thank you all for watching, consider subscribing, hit the little bell, check out all the other videos because I've made a lot of different videos about these game boxes and there are, in my opinion, way better options out there with way better controllers.